Washington is currently projecting a narrative of a high-stakes geopolitical heist. Michael Kratsios, leading the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, is publicly accusing Chinese laboratories of stealing American technology through adversarial distillation. Anthropic, the lab behind the Claude model, provided the specific evidence for the claim. Their findings suggest competitors utilized roughly 24,000 fraudulent accounts to generate over 16 million conversations, effectively siphoning the intelligence of their system through the API. This has moved beyond a corporate dispute. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is now threatening to place foreign firms on the Commerce Department's entity list, a move that would trigger aggressive financial sanctions and restrict their access to American hardware. The coordinated rhetoric from these labs in the government is designed to portray this as a state-sponsored cyber raid targeting the foundations of American technological dominance. To understand the actual engineering here, we have to look at model distillation. In this routine machine learning technique, a massive teacher model generates outputs, specifically the statistical probability distributions behind its answers. A smaller student model then studies these patterns to mimic the teacher's behavior more efficiently. Crucially, nothing else crosses that gap. No one hacked into a server, no proprietary source code was duplicated, and the internal architecture remained untouched. The government's specific claim against Moonshot AI also hits a major chronological wall. Moonshot launched its 2.8 trillion parameter model 15 days after Anthropic released the model it allegedly stole. Experts argue that even with industrial-scale distillation, 15 days is not enough time to train a system of that massive scale from scratch. While distillation is certainly occurring, the timeline in the Moonshot case shows it cannot be the primary engine of their progress. In this instance, the public accusations of theft are operating well outside the physical speed limits of model training. Utilizing 24,000 fake accounts is a massive violation of Anthropic's Terms of Service, or TOS. These user agreements explicitly prohibit automated output extraction and the use of their API to train competing systems. But there is a significant legal chasm between a contract violation and intellectual property theft. A breached user agreement is a civil matter. IP theft implies the violation of a statutory right. Current U.S. copyright law offers these labs very little ground to stand on. Because AI-generated outputs lack a human author, the Copyright Office has repeatedly ruled that they cannot be protected by copyright. If the output isn't protected, training a new model on that output isn't legally theft. The frontier labs are using the dramatic language of geopolitical heists to rebrand a standard contract dispute over API abuse into a matter of national security. This outrage ignores the foundational history of the frontier models themselves. These systems were built by scraping the open internet, ingesting billions of words and images without ever asking for permission from the people who created them. Training data consisted of copyrighted books, proprietary software code, and decades of professional journalism. The labs took this material without consent or compensation, claiming it was publicly available, and therefore fair game. There is a heavy irony in these labs now claiming a moral high ground. They are accusing competitors of using the exact same unpermissioned data harvesting tactics that they use to build their own empires. The closed AI giants are fighting to preserve a status quo where they are the only ones permitted to scrape data at an industrial scale. Away from the headlines, a quiet crisis is pushing the enterprise market in sectors like defense, healthcare, and finance to abandon the cloud entirely. The fundamental flaw in closed models is that every prompt is a data transfer. A company must send proprietary secrets into a third-party cloud. This dependency triggers massive regulatory failures. Frameworks like HIPAA and CMMC require strict isolation that standard cloud APIs cannot provide. For organizations handling high-stakes secrets, the use of closed-model APIs represents a structural breach of their own corporate data perimeter. This security gap is driving a massive pivot toward open-weight models, systems where the underlying code is downloadable and accessible to the user. These models allow for air-gapped deployments. An organization can download the weights and run frontier-level AI on its own physical hardware, its own local iron, with a zero dependency on an external connection. This hardware-based isolation is the only way to ensure that patient records or trade secrets remain mathematically under the company's direct local control. This reality recontextualizes the government's outcry over distillation. The closed model labs watch their lucrative enterprise moat evaporate as customers move their workloads to hardware they actually own. The charge of theft is a geopolitical smokescreen. The actual threat to these incumbent labs is that customers have finally found a way to access high-level intelligence without surrendering their most valuable secrets.